everybody. Thanks for coming, checking in and coming back. Really appreciate it. I just wanted to be able to one say thank you for coming back from last week and reintroduce yourself so everybody kind of gets a chance to get to know you, and that way we can really make sure we're on the same page. So and then when you do introduce yourself, can you tell us what was your favorite thing from last meeting? How about we start with Joseph?
Oh, it's raining, but what was the question?
just reintroduce yourself and what was your favorite thing from last week?
Oh, just the whole kind of activity itself was a lot of fun. I liked that it was different and definitely helped me be more creative. Yeah, it was just the actual craft was a lot of fun.
Okay. All right, good. Very good. How about Hannah?
I'm Hannah. My favorite thing about last week was how safe the environment was, and we were able to talk about our fears and what inspires us to just talk about everything.
Oh, very good. I'm glad we were able to create that. We want to create that safe environment for sure. How about Ashley?
It was just nice to get back into art. I haven't done it in a while. I mean, sure, there's been doodles here and there, but not a dedicated art project. So, very excited.
Good. That's exactly. It's easy to kind of lose track of things, especially something that you really enjoyed before doing. And partially that's what we're going to be talking about with these different activities. But they are part of what we're going to be learning about, like how sometimes we may start off a certain way, but then the world, society, people kind of start to kind of force us into conform us into a certain way of doing things, like painting inside the lines and making it less fun and telling us that we're not that good, or we have these judgments based off of that. So that's one of the things we're working on. How about Dan? What was your favorite part? Are you still here? Looks like we may have lost him. All right, well, we'll go ahead and no worries. We'll continue. I'll go ahead and discuss like a little recap from last week, and then we'll go into this next week and get fun and start working on our activity. So a recap, of course, is that we discussed the key concepts from chapter 1 and the basic concepts of the artist's way. That's what we're working from as far as the book. And again, it's a loosely, we're following loosely just enough to kind of, for those that want to follow it more closely, you're welcome to do so. We can talk directly one-on-one if there's more things you want to go over, but these are more like guidelines to help us along the way so we can support our inner artist. And then in that, we discussed the artist states, we discussed morning pages and meditation, we discussed affirmations and sensory walks, and then we also talked about the sense of safety. And that's what we were trying to talk about today, is about like last week was about the sense of safety and how we need to really make sure that we protect that and we use that as an opportunity for us to be able to express ourselves. Does anyone want to share of how their last week went? Did anyone decide to have or to try some of these activities? Welcome, Mike. Does anyone want to share about like what they did or were they able to do anything?
Like one time.
The journal or the morning pages?
The morning page.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I did that times.
You did it a couple times? Mm-hmm. I was going to say I did this program several years ago, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to try to do this now with this group is because it has been several years, and I kind of was curious, like not only to introduce the key concepts that I thought were really important, but also for myself to kind of see how much I've changed. So I did most of the week. I did about 6 days, the morning pages. And I do find that those are sometimes a struggle. You're tired, trying to get moving, other stuff's going on. So they're a little bit hard to do. I do agree. But after a while, it started to feel like I was looking forward to doing them. and looking forward to like what the possibilities are in manifesting through these affirmations. But the artist date I found was a little bit tough for me to get in. I struggled with making that time to do something creative for myself. How about you? Does anyone else have that struggle trying to create that time and make that time important enough in your schedule to do?
Yes, absolutely. I never make time for anything I want to do.
Let alone being creative, right? And that's not always easy when you want to be able to do something different or fun or joyful or just have some doodle again and do something like that. So it's easy to kind of let that kind of go off in the wayside if you have other priorities and not making that a priority. Did anyone get a chance to do a walk, kind of do a sensory walk and experience the world a little differently? Well, I know that I was able to do a little bit, and I was able to kind of just look outside, and I was able to hear some of the birds different singing, and I was able to also see the new landscaping in the neighborhood, and I was able to kind of see a new dog that I didn't know existed. It was there, and I thought he was lost, and that was neat. So it was neat to be able to kind of have that chance to kind of to experience things or pay attention to it.
I didn't personally do a like nature walk. I did a walk in a place called the gym, and in the gym, I will say it was like not quite the place you're like, oh, a sensory walk where I'm gonna get in touch with my senses. You don't think that, but while I was there, I was kind of paying attention to like the overall building structure, where the equipment was placed, how the equipment was aligned. I don't know, seeing the pattern of things and seeing the kind of organization of it all. I kind of took that into. I thought it was an interesting thing for me to conceive and look at and try to like picture that.
Absolutely. I think that so many times we get so locked into our activities and the stresses and things that are going on in our life that we forget to really just notice the everyday beauty in our everyday activities. And just even notice like what was there. Sometimes we completely don't even realize, we pass things over so many times that we forget that what that color of the wall was or what the pattern was there. So it's easy to just overlook things and not notice them, especially in the world with technology, that we get our heads in the technology and we kind of forget to look around and pay attention and notice what's going on around us. Well, that was just an introduction from a recap from last week, but also just to kind of check in and see how things were going. This week, we're discussing chapter 2, and that the title is Recovering a Sense of Identity. So that's what we're going to be focusing on.
Interject by chance?
Yes.
Well, I did a couple walks this past week too, and living in Colorado, I've been experiencing a lot of rainfall this past week, and oh my goodness, I think the beauty of just what Mother Nature gives us, I mean, it's so green and rich. It really makes you feel like you're in a different place, especially I've been living in Colorado Springs for the last maybe 10 years, a little more than 10 years, and never have I experienced that. And it's kind of reflecting on just the beauty itself and the mountain range. I am privileged to be close to the mountain range. I'm privileged to see what Mother Nature has to offer. So
Yes.
I can't wait to use that in my art and show that in the near future as well.
Exactly. And to experience that and to feel it, because what we're trying to do is really tap into that inner self and allow that to be able to be expressed. And sometimes it's just being able to spend time in the presence of nature and the world around us to be able to really absorb that and feel peace, really. So, and it allows you then to create from there. So yes, I'm also excited to see what you're able to find out in that experience.
Well, and also in that experience, it makes you get a little bit more grounded, because life can just lead you. It's so chaotic with just life experiences. So having that and experience that, it's a challenge to get that
Yes.
regroup. Like what Joe mentioned, I mean, it's just like you're not able to probably put the time and effort of the things that you want to do because life happens, and this is like a good reflection and makes you want to take that time and that effort to stop, relax, take that pause, and see the beauty around you. So it was a good exercise.
Well, and the other part that also, which is a part of that, is to say that we need to really schedule and make that a priority. It's easy for us to overlook that, but that really needs to be a priority in our life so that we are able to keep that balance and allow us to be able to still do what we need to do and still remain present. So yeah, we'll be working on that throughout this time that we're working together. And that's part of why we do these extra activities too, is to be able to kind of re-support and understand and continue to work through those concepts. So in chapter 2, this sense of identity, the author spent a lot of time describing how this process can generate positive experiences and also trigger a lot of self-doubt and negative feedback from our poisonous friends or playmates, you refer to them as. These people are in our lives who also are blocked. These people are also blocked, maybe even more blocked than we feel we have been as far as our creative selves. And they work in our life, and they're sometimes a very toxic force. They disrupt our progress. They're the ones that come in when you need something to get something done. You're out there, need to have some other, they always seem to like need their stuff done first, even when you need to have something else. And they sometimes also become a crutch that we use to self-sabotage our own efforts. Sometimes they're doing it because they're blocked and they're trying to prevent you from succeeding. And yet sometimes you're using them as well to prevent you from actually doing it too, because it's based off of our fears of what it really means to take to change, to really take those risks, to acknowledge our own creativity and how important it is to us. How we need to connect with that part of us what we're just talking about, how important it is for us to be able to have those experiences, to be able to express our emotions and our needs, and to be able to really connect with our true identity and allow that to come forth. And so the world, society, family, friends, even ourselves will conform to what others tell us what we should do or how we ought to be, how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to what kind of jobs we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to spend our time, and what it means to be accepted and loved, and in this world. And sometimes we comply with it. Sometimes we believe in it, and sometimes we place those expectations on ourselves as well. So it's a very difficult thing for us to always accomplish being able to maintain our creativity. That's why a lot of us do become blocked, because of all the expectations that are out there. And also the fear of actually trying to do that. So we end up focusing more on our responsibilities to others in our life and not on or at the expense of the responsibilities to ourselves. And those responsibilities to ourselves is really the element of connecting to our our source. That means that the essential element here is nurturing our creativity. And in nurturing our creativity, we're nurturing ourselves. And in doing this, we nurture that relationship with our great creator, higher power, God, whatever source name you feel comfortable using. Not everybody is as comfortable with Christianity. Others have practice different beliefs. So I want to make sure you also feel comfortable with the terminology that we're using. But that source of power, that what I would call God or the higher power, is what we're connecting with it in our creative selves. That creative self is the connection that we foster, that relationship, and really taking that time to nurture our creativity is what is going to help us with all of the things that we're going to do and allow us to express ourselves and our feelings. So we need to remember to protect this process and protect that inner child, that inner artist, that creative self that's inside of us, almost like we're a mama bear protecting her cub. So you want to make sure that this process is as whatever you can do to protect the time, protect what you're doing with it. Don't let just anybody in on what you're doing. Don't let anyone read your morning pages, not even yourself, because sometimes we sabotage ourselves. And so we want to make sure that it's just read. It's the process of doing it that is what's important, not rereading or sharing it with other people. And don't allow anybody, not even ourselves, to really buy into those negative beliefs, those thoughts, those things that stop us from really being able to express ourselves and really say that whether we want to be an artist, a musician, a poet, whether we want to create in different ways. Sometimes we create through cooking, and sometimes we create through sewing and different types of things that allow us to be able to express ourselves and to be able and to do those, or write, or create films and produce those. All these different things are what we would would necessarily want to do, but sometimes we like allow those things to prevent us from doing it. And we kind of have, we were dabble on things or kind of touch things, but we're afraid to really go for it. And that's what that part is telling, that negative part is what is preventing us from going any further. So we really need to protect this process that we're going through so that we can really redefine what those beliefs are saying to us, well, the negative beliefs, those negative thoughts, and put a positive framework on it. And the positive language, like we're doing with these affirmations in our morning pages and in our journals themselves, so that we can really explore all of these things throughout this process and through our projects. Which brings me to our project. The project for tonight are collage self-portraits. And I had suggested that we have 5 pages to prepare for the night, but if you did not get them all prepared, that is perfectly fine. We can have you work on them as we're going through it. The reason why I thought it would be good to try to prepare the 5 is because it's easier to work off of the page that's dry. And so sometimes it's harder to kind of do certain things, but you can still manipulate your pages. You can work on one, lay the background, work on another, and go back and forth. And that's why I have multiple portraits to go through tonight, so that you can continue to work as we're talking, as we're going through this stuff, and we can work on a variety of different ones at the same time. We may or may not finish all portraits tonight. That's perfectly okay. And so I don't want anyone to feel rushed that it has to be done or has to be done a certain way. There, again, it's about allowing yourselves to have fun. It's not about a deadline. So, but I would encourage you to continue throughout the week if you're not able to finish, or if it's not quite dry and you want to go back in and finish some more little finishing details or add little other things to it. That's exactly what it's for. It's to allow us to be able to have that opportunity to do it. So the first one is how we see ourselves now in this world as we go. And it's the idea that what we project to the world, what we think other people see, what we want other people to see, type of thing. And so that is what we project now as we are. And I wanted you to be able to kind of, with your page, there's a variety of different things that we can do with techniques, and I'm going to go over some of those. But if you have a picture of yourself, if you're able to copy a picture of yourself, I went ahead and copied a picture. I got a little black and white right here, just as an example. But there's I'm going to go over, like, if you wanted to draw, we'll go over like a sketch of how to do a whimsical drawing. Remember, these are expressions of who you are. It does not have to be a direct image of who you are. So there's no wrong answer. It's about expressing how you feel and what you feel you're projecting to the world. So with that, you can definitely have the idea of like the feeling. You can use words, painting. You can use the different types of elements that we would, like we talked about before, stickers, different pieces that put in there that you want, images that you want to project that you feel is expressing yourself and the image that you portray. That would be how you see yourself now. The next one is how others see you and what you feel is the expectation of who you are, what those society and world is saying you need to be, and what that's supposed to look like, how that makes you feel, what is that image to you, and what that looks like for you. So that's going to be your image there. The next one's going to be our inner artist or inner child, and what that child looks like. What do they want? What are they noticing? That type of stuff. What are they looking for? And the next one is going to be our actual parasite, the enemy within. And we want to actually have a picture of this. We want to know what it looks like. We want to be able to find a way to combat this parasite. And so we also want to know, like, what does it say to you? What are the types of things the negative things that you hear? You'll never be good enough. You'll never be able to do this. What are you thinking? How can you possibly consider doing that particular thing? That's impossible. Those types of thoughts is the parasite or the enemy within telling you that it's impossible, that you can't do this, that you're not capable. That's the negative beliefs that pop up. So whatever yours is, whatever you're hearing that's preventing you from realizing that next level or trying new things, and that's what we're going to be working on with the parasite image. And the final one is the manifestation image. we're manifesting what we want now. Like we're looking at what we're looking at, we're trying to create, what is that image? Am I going to be do you want to be an artist? Do you want to be a musician? Do you want to be a director? Do you want to write poetry? Whatever that is. Do you want to be a baker? Those types of things. What is it that you feel you want to use? What medium do you want to use to express yourself and to really connect with that spirit that's in us? So, okay. So first is that self as you are now. Now you can use a variety of different things, which was kind of interesting to me when I started doing these classes and taking art classes and stuff like that. I didn't realize that a lot of the times in my mind, the images that we have and the things that we believe about art is kind of skewed, right? Most of the time I'm being taught techniques that are shortcuts that feels like it's cheating. Like, how is that possible? Really, that's what they do with watercolor. You're masking certain things, you're outlining, you're tracing, because you need to be able to create that positive negative space, though using the lights, darks, and you have to be able to mask certain things off. And in order to do that, you have to have that image, and you have to be able to protect the other image from when you do one pass of color and then another pass of color, and then you can be able to take that mask tape off and then see the next piece. And that's really a kind of a process that you go through, but it's a technique. And so that's really what we'll learn, different techniques as we go through. You can use them. They're not necessarily with a journal. You're not having to follow any rules, because there are no rules. It's just what you feel to express yourself. But I'll go over some of them so you can at least be able to try some of these things. But some of them are things that you feel like, wow, that's cheating. So yeah, taking a copy of yourself is, and most people say, I got to draw myself, I got to do all these different things. And yes, that's great. And we'll go over some of those things, but it's not necessary for you to be able to create good art or to create and express yourself through these different activities, but just in general. And so you can use tracing paper as well. You can use other images. It doesn't have to be a direct copy of yourself either. It could be, you can even go and just have fun and do kind of just an image here where you can see like a Picasso image where you can do a face and then just paint on it different colors. You can write around it. You can use your head and your hair to have writings about all the different things that you feel are your qualities or who you are, what you represent. All those different things will be part of this. So whatever you feel goes. You can then paint on top of that, because remember, with these pages, you want to do it in layers. And so we want to be able to not only have that background done, but then we want to also put the layers on top of that. And so that allows us to be able to express ourselves. So the first one I'm just going to go into is that on your journal page, or take out another page if you like, and we're going to go over to like actually drawing a portrait or at least a face, so you can get an idea of like how to possibly do it on your own. What we're going to do is here, if you want to, again, it's whatever you go. So if you want to just do colors and do images and write, do an outline of a face, it's up to you. But I'm just going to go over this so that we can show you a different way of doing things. Now you can use a pencil, pen, marker, whatever works for you. And what you want to do is you want to just draw an oval, kind of an egg shape onto that paper. And I'm going to go kind of quickly just so you get a general idea that you're going to, maybe I need a pen. Yeah. So there's the egg shape. So again, it's a general shape. You can do oval. Your face might be more round. Other pieces might be more longer. Depends on where you're thinking your image for yourself. And you want to use a ruler if you have, or a straight edge. It just makes it a little bit easier. And you basically go down the middle and cut the face image in half. So you can see that there's two halves. All faces have certain symmetry or asymmetry depending on what's going on, and you can utilize that when you're drawing a face or an image of a face in a portrait. You can do it in thirds. You can do it in breaking it down into some type of a grid. A lot of people go into a lot of details about the grid. There are a variety of ways in which you can do this. I'm going to break it down to a couple simple ways to be able to see it for this purpose so that you can at least get the idea. So down the middle, and then you want to break the face into thirds. So I'm going to break it up kind of like down the middle first, across from the middle, kind of generally. I'm not measuring specific right now. I'm trying to just to make this light and easy. And I'm going to do that one next, but maybe right about here. And then another one right about there. And again, this is just a simple grid of a face so that you can kind of get an idea of where things are placed. And then an idea of like where you can start to draw them. All right, so it's a very simple. And I'm just trying
Now,
to.
Teresa, when
Yes.
you use the grid method, is it because you want to keep everything symmetrical and keep everything kind of like equal on each side, in essence?
Well, it does help. It helps people to get perspective on the face. And typically, yeah, depending on how you're drawing and what utensil you're using, the space of the width of your eye is going to be the same width from this part in between your eyes. So that bridge of your nose is the same width of your eye. And then, and
Well, I
typically,
didn't know that. Oh, that's nice.
so then if you don't have a ruler or those types of things, you can do it, but just by kind of by eyesight, but also by like you can like measure your eye with like the pencil and kind of figure out the width and then go from there. It just depends on, but it helps you to put things in perspective, especially as you add other elements like movement, side angle, that type of thing. It gives you a little bit more space to be where things should be placed. For this purpose, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to look like you at all. I'm just trying to help you kind of get an image that you can work with, and you can decide what you want to do with it. You can
Well, it's a
decide.
nice method. It's a very good trick. I mean, it's
Well,
not
it
a trick.
is.
It's a good method.
It's a very simple thing to start with, and then you just practice it. And then the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then you can go into more details, and you can start to maybe do it from the mirror or watch somebody and try to draw them too. But the basic principles are going to be the same. And then I was going to also point that out. So once you have that in there, you're going to see that from the middle, it's going to be kind of like the middle of the face, kind of like where the nose would be, generally the eye. So you're going to see that that top third would be more where the forehead's going to be. And then the eye is going to be just under, and the eyebrow where the half place meets. And so I'm going to try to be able to start that.
Now, do you start like left to right, upper quadrant, left quadrant? What's your method of when you start this?
I've always started with the eyes. That has been one of my techniques. I always start with the eyes, but I think I've always been drawn to the eyes. And so when I start drawing, I usually start there. Now, other people have different techniques in general. Once they have the grid, they may start just kind of outlining or putting like maybe just using circles or an oval. So like where you would put your eye, you may just put like another oval and versus like the details of it. So like some people may start with the brows. I usually start with the eyes. So then you might just put like a circle for the nose, and then you could go back over and erase. I'm using a pen so you can see, but you can go back over and erase. Once you've got the space and the location of it, then you can manipulate the size and the variation within what you want to accomplish with the face. So it gives you a variety of ways to do it. But that's typically, I like starting with the eyes. I figured if you get the eyes, most of the other pieces kind of come into place. But it's really up to you how you want to do it.
Okay.
What I'm going to try to see here. Let's see. I'm trying to get an idea like how to be able to express this easier. The brows are usually going to be a kind of an arch. Typically, a brow will be an arch, but not everybody has that. But when you're doing, for the purposes of this, you're going to try to do more of an arch shape. And you're just going to try to lay down just a general shape. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. You just want to kind of start like getting the shape of where the eye is going to be. That's going to be the brow. And the eye will be just under that, and you're going to basically use more of an oval shape for these purposes. So you're going to kind of just do kind of like a half moon, even if you want to look at it like that, half moon to half moon. That might be an easier way for you to look at it that way. And again, remember, once you've got the eye on one side, use that measurement, spaces the bridge of the nose, and then the next eye. And then you just do the same thing, kind of a half moon. Try to stay on the same general spacing that you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is just to give you a general idea of like how to do it for yourself. So then you get like the spacing for the eyes. And then when you have that oval shape, now most everybody has more of that kind of oval shape here. Now, depending on where the orientation, sometimes they have more of a bigger lid, a deeper eye. That can be, I mean, with more of like a different level of artwork. But it's not necessarily that you have to have it for these purposes. So I'm just trying to give you a little basic look at how to do these. So once you have that, then you're going to want to do the pupil of the eye, which is basically really simply kind of like it comes down in another half moon, sometimes larger than that, and it's usually about mid-eye, and it's like a half moon circle, usually 3/4 of a moon, and you'll see that you can make that the pupil. I don't know if you can see that. But then the pupil is there, and then in that pupil, you want to be able to do, yes? Do I have a question?
If I'm drawing on
Yes? I'm hearing you.
I get other paper.
You want, oh yeah, you can get another paper. You can use you can use it as a pencil, you can use this as a guide, and then you
Well,
can.
if I'm using newspaper, trace my portrait on this paper. But how do I get it on here?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's with the tracing paper, or you can cut it out and then you can glue and paste it from there. Once you have the face, then you can decide how you want to place it on your portrait itself. More a matter of like just
So there's
allows
no
you
way
to. I'm sorry, you're breaking up a bit. There's no way to.
So there's no way to like draw it onto there. It's just this is my paper now.
Oh yeah, well yes, you can, or you can use it as your model or your guide, or you can do the tracing paper and then trace it onto and then it just traces an outline, and then you can then go from there. It gives you what you want on that. It's an easier way to kind of do it with the tracing paper, or you just cut out the image entirely.
Okay,
Okay, well
thanks.
no problem at all. I hope that helps. The other part I was going to say was within there, you can see that inside the pupil, I did then put a little, it's supposed to be the speck of light and how the light reflects in the eye, in the pupil. They can be any type of ways. You can do a couple little dots. You can do a little kind of, but that's where the light, usually you always want to think about how light is reflective and in your image, where the light is coming from, where's the light source. So that's really where that comes from. And then you can decide how you want to do like lashes, if you want to do another little, for how deep set the eyes are. You can do a variety of different ways to kind of set that eye in there. You can make your brows bigger. But usually gives you the idea of how you can do generally how the eyes can be done in the portrait very simply. And then you can, color in the pupil whatever color you want. You can get a variety in there, add some makeup, really dress it up a little bit. The other technique or trick that you do with faces is that once you have the eyes, then from whether it's the pupil or whether it's in the inner corner of the eye, you can use that to measure then down to the nose, where the nose is, or where the lips are going to be, where that's going to begin. So that helps you as far as like trying to line things up with the rest of your face. So typically, like where the brow begins, so right in this space is going to, if you go straight down, that's going to be where the end of the nose is going to be. Typically, you're going to see that. It's going to be more of a straighter line, and that's where the end of this side of the nose, or the width of the nose will be. So that may help you as well. And then it'll be, again, also the spacing is going to be closer to this line here where the end of the nose, so the length and then the width. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. So then from there, once you kind of get the width and the length, then you can do just a little simple kind of in the middle there. I kind of went a little wide, but you can tell you're going to do a little bit of the nose, kind of like a little half nose, a little half circle, and you kind of go in. It's kind of like a little bit of a bean in the nose here. And it just gives you enough to be able to designate a nose. Can you see that okay? And just enough to be able to say, okay, that's the spacing location for your nose. You can add more details as you go, or you can take it away, but you want to just have an area that gives you that gesture of a nose. And then just below that, that's where you're going to begin your lips. Maybe a half an inch or so. And typically you're going to do more of like a kind of almost the opposite with the lip on the front and then the back. And I want to have an image here for you to see. Where the pupil is, that's usually where, or the beginning of the pupil usually is where the end of the, or the width of the lips. So if you go straight down from the beginning of the pupil down, from the beginning of the pupil down, that's usually the width of your mouth. And that's usually where that goes, so you have an idea. And then you can kind of see, just again, very simply, very easily, but you can see where the beginning of the pupil comes down, the width of the lips. You can make your lips thin or wide, whatever you want. But that gives you like a very basic portrait that you can use for your own portrait. You can make make them bigger, wider. I've also was looking at some ideas and ways in which you can really, because it's a collage, so you're just allowing yourself to express. So it doesn't have to be a direct image of you. It's more a matter of how you're expressing yourself. And I was looking at different pictures just for something else, and I found these. I thought these were great, and these are just different type of images. But you know how the face has like the different. You can do that with your portraits here with the collages. You can paint the eyes different colors. You can make it into a skeleton if you want, like that, like the skull, or you can turn it into something else. Turn your eye into a flower. You can make the gesture of where your lips are going to be. You can paint cheeks, or you can do different pictures. You can do half and half, just a mixture of whatever you feel is more comfortable for you. And then how, like on this one in particular, I thought was wonderful. It's like she kind of has a crown going on for her hair, and you could do the same thing with yours. You can make your hair just really big and sculptural with different colors. You can cut different things, tear different pieces out, make it different colors, but then go back in and write, I am this, I am creative, I am an artist, I am, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, so you can start to create all these different things in which is the image of who you are. And you can express it through the words and be able to do your actual portrait. So that's the idea of how that would look. So you can get you can, like this other picture too, I liked a lot because again, it's a similar idea. That was getting another project going on. But you can make your hair flowers. You can do anything you really want to be able to just express the image in which you feel that you are who you are now, what people see. What's the image that you think people see when they look at you. And that would be part of it. So I started this background page, and I'm going to play with this cutout image of myself, and I'm going to see what I can do with what comes out of around my head and the different images that are there. So I can kind of see. I'm going to paint over the image and see what happens.
That looks really nice.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm having fun with just kind of the collage is also more freeing for a lot of people to not feel so structured, because a lot of times we feel like we need to have like a photo-esque type of artwork, and that it somehow we're comparing it to somebody else or comparing it to a photography, and that's not what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to express ourselves and have fun. And so but some of it's like done through color. So that was the next thing. I'm glad you said that, because I need to be able to make sure I'm expressing the next piece. Is a lot of times we may stop ourselves because we are comparing ourselves to other things, right? So, or other people or other artists, or what our negative the voice is telling us, like, oh, there's no way, look at that. I mean, that looks like a kid did it, those are the voices that come into your head. And so typically when we're doing that, we're going to do, we're going to start to prevent ourselves from really allowing ourselves to relax and enjoy the process. But if you do want to kind of look at your journal pages as if it's their composition, and the better compositions you make, the easier you can understand, like when you're looking at different pieces of art, you understand like, oh, that makes that, I just seem to like that better. I seem to enjoy that piece better. Or that one just bothers me somehow. I'm not sure why, or that kind of, but part of it's because of the composition. And it's usually kind of what's aesthetically pleasing to the eye, what the eye likes to see. And way in which we use different things, different elements, and different ways in which we use the art helps us to do a better composition. It does not have to be that way with any of your journals. But I'm going to go over some of these concepts so that if you want to go back over, if you want to play with the ideas, if you want to see if it works for you, if that makes you feel more comfortable, that way you have an idea of like what might work, or what you want to try to do next time. So in the process of doing these portraits, if you're ready to, before I go on, if you want to go ahead and start the next one, which is going to be your what other people see of you, or what you believe that they expect of you, the expectations of you, the image they have of you, what they think you're supposed to live up to. Yes, Ashley.
Is it okay if we're not doing them in order?
Oh, absolutely. That's the idea. I wanted to be able to, that's why I did multiple ones, so that you could play with whatever you're drawn to. I'm just going through like what the list was, but it does not mean that if you feel like, let's say the parasite's calling you just really want to put an image on that, go ahead and do that. If you feel like the inner child is, or all of a sudden you want to talk, I really want to work on my manifestation, that's really great too. So whatever you feel drawn to work on right now, please do so.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
just going over ideas so that you can continue to work. And we can have fun creating. So, but before I forget, so the part of what we're looking at with any of these portraits, the collage portraits, is to, and elements of composition, we're going to be looking at color, texture, lines, depth, tone, shape, and space. And so when we're looking at any of those things, when we're looking at the background, let's per se, for a journal page, you can look at color. Color is the color blocking. It could be a variety of different ways in which the color is used, but the color is what we're looking at to kind of see and to generate an emotion. Sometimes you're feeling blue, sometimes you're feeling sad, happy. Orange is a happy color. There's a variety of different things that you can do with color to be able to really express how you're feeling. Particularly in our journaling, you're also going to use lots of lines. Yes, was there a question? Okay, I thought I heard something. You're going to use lots of lines, and lines are a perfect way for you to express your emotions, whether it's just repeating lines, whether it's just lines through in general, with zigzag lines, sometimes hashtag crossing lines can also give you depth and can give you an image. Sometimes just circles and circles and circles can also give you an image. Sometimes just playing with circles for a while can just really help you to express how you're feeling, but all of a sudden it gives you another idea of what you're doing or what you'd like it to do. It could be your hair, and you can do circles and circles and circles working on how the hair is coming out, how the image of what it looks like. So those are different ways in which you're going to use that in your journal to be able to, the lines themselves, the repetition of lines, the use of lines, and how they're like put onto the page allows you to be able to express feelings as well. And it can create depth, and it can create texture. Tone can be a matter of like the tone of what you're feeling, but it can also be the tone of the color itself and how that looks on the page. So it's a mixture of which way you want to go with that. Not as obvious on a journal page right now for my example for you, but shape and space are. So the shapes in which you use your elements can be anywhere. Like here, some of the shapes I use like rectangle, I use square, and I've used them in different ways so that you can see like the circles, ovals, different shapes in which you can place color, and it can also offer a different composition on your page. And it can make it more interesting. It can draw attention to something. That's where the use of shape can also come into play. And space. The space can be the space, both positive and negative space, and we'll go into that in a little bit, but space in which where you're placing things on the page, as well as how it's relating to other things on the page. That's where you'll see how that works. The principles of using these elements are the kind of considered ideas or rules, but again, nobody has to follow these. I just want to give you an idea of what they look like and how you might want to use them. So you can use balance, you can use pattern, you can use contrast, you can use emphasis, proportion, and movement. So balance, of course, is obvious. You're going to see like, how does it look on the page? Does it look balanced? Does one look off more than the other? Does one look heavier than the other? Does one look like it's forward versus, that looks bigger, heavier, that type of stuff. The balance in which you place your elements on the page. The pattern in which you use those elements. Are you repeating the pattern? Are you doing it multiple times? Where is this pattern going? Those types of things also will help you with how you're expressing yourself on the page. The contrast is really the difference between the colors that you're using and how much that's going to either really make something stand out, or it's going to maybe something recede into the line. So the contrast is going to give you that a more extreme contrast. You're going to really be able to have that real emphasis on something, or less contrast is going to really kind of recede into the background. Then you're going to have the emphasis, and the emphasis is going to be like what exactly you want people to look at when you're looking at your page. Do you want them to look directly at, let's say, the face? That's what I want them to see. So I want that to be like smack dab in the middle, right? You want to really see that one. So you really want to draw all your attention into that particular piece, and then everything else around it is going to be supporting that one, bringing you in. How you place your other elements around that, where you want to place an emphasis, really does also create interest as well. So that's part of how we look at things. And proportion, how big one is from the other, also can give you depth and can give you like a way in which you can see how things look a little bit more interesting when you're looking at the page. And also can create movement. If you're using different sizes, different ways in which it's going down a page, it can create movement on a page. So that's what I wanted to make sure that I was expressing to you, like some of those basic art principles, so that if you want to try any of these things, those may help you achieve what you're trying to evoke, the emotion you're trying to feel or express on your pages. By using some of these elements, they can help you to be able to do that more effectively. So it's just a matter of like how you want to express yourself. Some of the things that with these principles and these elements, you want to use different rules as well. And these are really typical for almost any artwork that you're going to do. There's a thing called rule of thirds. And it's usually like if you divide the page like into 9 equal parts of the page. So again, another grid type of idea. But let's say you do the page and you do it into thirds. So I'm going to go this way. Again, this is going to be a real simple way of doing this. After the thirds. This is just so you can get the general idea of what that looks like to you, and then how it works for when you're looking at a piece of art. Like, oh, that's why that it's more interesting. For whatever reason, science and art has allowed us to be able to see how this works. So I just folded it very basic, just so you can see the general way in which we can break up our pages. And what is nice about this is that you're going to see I kind of messed up on that fold, but that's all right. So this is a general grid that you can see on your page if you just break it down into the thirds. And then where those intersect in the corners, right there, that is where your eye naturally will be drawn to, and you'll be naturally wanting to, you'll see that first. So if you want to place something directly in the center, that's great, or it's kind of in that square. But if you want to also do something else to get everybody's attention, you may want to put something in that corner. So you might want to put an element. Thought I had a sticker here. You may want to put an element like right there so that you can, that way may draw your attention, but it's not, it's in that particular space. So it helps to kind of create that space in that area. But it's also in the law of thirds, it allows you to be able to place different things, maybe repeat a pattern or draw emphasis to something. So if that's the case and you wanted to have this feather here in this corner, and it's a nice, that the way, the size of it's there, then you can place other feathers around, but maybe smaller, but it also kind of supports the emphasis on this, the bigger size. Then you can create like maybe smaller ones, maybe having it go around in the circle, and it creates a better composition, it more interest, gets everybody more where you're paying attention. You want to draw them in, and then you want to be able to kind of express, if you want to express motion, if you want to express a feeling, that's part of how you would do it. And then the other part is odd numbers. Interestingly enough, we usually are drawn to compositions with odd numbers, meaning we kind of like asymmetry. We're drawn to it. Our eyes are drawn to it. It'll get our attention. And so we usually like either one element, or the one element repeated 3 times, one element repeated 5 times, or have five elements on the page, but then again, one element versus like, repeating them all at the same element. So that we usually like to see things in an asymmetrical way using odd numbers. So it helps us to be able to put things together. So if you have the feather, then you can also have the one feather, but maybe you have that with like 2 or 3 other like white feathers. Okay, so you have this colored and then you have white small feathers around it. But that gives you like the interest where something is, and you can put them together so that it looks more interesting on the page, in the middle, or on the law of thirds. But then you can also be able to separate it by the use of the element. Did that make sense? Maybe.
Yes,
all right, the last
it does.
the last is the
Well,
positive and negative.
it's really nice, good
Okay, go ahead.
techniques. I mean, these are very good techniques to live by.
Well, it's just I just wanted to make sure that I was sharing them with you guys, because I realized last week that maybe it would be helpful to give you a little bit to work with, and then that way you can decide how you want to do it. You can use any of these elements, these ideas, these ways to practice, or you can just throw it out the window and whatever feels good, do it. So it's really more matter of what
Thank
you're
you.
drawn to.
Yeah. I said absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, and the last thing I was going to bring up was the positive and negative space. So this is another example. Again, I'm using my picture here, but it's the way to help. The positive space is everything you draw or paint that is part of the drawing. So let's say I did all this. Let's say I did this, and I put this on there. That is my positive space. So negative space is all the space that does not belong to that drawing. So it's all the negative space. So you can see that how you use negative space or how you use positive space makes a difference on how it looks on the page. What you're drawn to, what you don't, what you like, what you don't like. So that kind of thing helps you to kind of identify, how am I using negative and positive space? And if that is something, a way for me to express myself, so I can show, maybe make a point. Maybe I'm trying to really emphasize this particular thing. Maybe I really want to emphasize that my how I feel when as the inner child, and maybe the inner child's much smaller and the negative space is much bigger, and maybe that inner child is sad, and so maybe it's in the little area, and then so that might be part of how you express that feeling of the inner child, or the picture of your inner child. Maybe the inner child is big and fun and loves where it's at, kind of stuff. This is great. So it's more a matter of like how you want to express certain things too, of the use of the space that you have on your page. It really just allows you to express that. And triangles, I almost forgot. Triangles also help you do that. We can either use triangles on the page, or we can put them in the order of a triangle on the page. It just seems to draw our eyes to it, and it makes it more aesthetically appealing when you're putting something together. So on the page, you can either use an actual triangle and just paint a triangle, and then you can draw around it, that type of thing. Or you can put your elements in a triangle shape, and then it creates that composition that maybe is working for what you'd like it to be. So where are we guys right now before I go any further?
Well, I finished one, and I'm currently working on a different one.
So which one did you finish, and are you willing to share?
Well, the negative one, and I don't know about the negative one. Sharing that one, that one feels more like personal.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Absolutely fair. No problem at all. But does it feel? Did you like the way that it's like? Was it the negative one where it was your parasite, or was it the
Yeah,
one that?
parasite.
Okay. Okay. The one thing I did want to say about the parasite is that the parasite is self-doubt and fear. It's a fear of the unknown, fear of rejection, fear of the other, whatever that is, that causes us to either buy in or accept what the parasite is saying to us, or maybe allows the parasite to have that kind of control. So the more that we're able to have that image of the parasite, or whatever you want to use, the parasite, inner critic, the more the enemy within, whatever the term you want to use, having a face allows you to be able to like identify with what that looks like to you, and it gives it less power. And then you can tell it that that it doesn't no longer have that much control over you and what your thoughts are. And then my next question to you though is how else would you like to be able to tell that parasite that it does not have as much control over your thoughts, of your creative time? What do you want to say to it?
Well, that I'm moving past it. That it's no longer as big of a part of my life as it used to be.
Exactly. And it does not need to be. Now what the idea of the parasite and the inner critic is, it doesn't go away, because it's part of who we are. There is a piece of us that will always have that piece in us. It maybe have began as a way to protect us. Maybe it served us at some point, but but it has grown out of control. And it is now dominating and preventing you from growing into the person you're supposed to be, or what you would like to be. And so by taking that power back and putting it in check and say, the parasite, you may have to be in my life. You may, maybe it's part of that, but it does not have to control or dominate my life. And you no longer have that control. And that's really kind of part of this process, is really putting that into check and putting it into maybe even a little timeout, if you want to say it that way, or in its own little prison room, or whatever that is. However you want to lock him up, you can do it that way, so that you can make sure that he has a face, you know what he looks like, and you can tell it that it does no longer serve you, and it's going to you may even want to give the parasite a name, like what it might look like or what it might say. But that way you have the more of those elements that you have about that piece of you, the more you are taking control back of what it's telling you. You are in control. You are controlling the narrative. You are controlling what you believe anymore. And that's what we're working on. Joseph.
Oh, I did my parasite. I think I'm going to name him Jeffrey with a J.
Oh, interesting.
He's kind
Why
of
Jeffrey
big and
with the
scary.
J? I think he is.
Yeah. I got work to do. But he's Jeffrey with the J.
Well, I think Jeffrey with the J is very interesting. And I think, yeah, he definitely has that menacing look to him.
But it's a smile.
A devious, menacing smile, yeah.
But he's so happy to be here.
Well, that's the thing. The parasite probably is enjoying doing these things, right? There's some joy within what the chaos he creates, right? So, or the negative thoughts he puts in your head, and the things in which he says, like, you can't do this. Why are you thinking you can even do this? What are you thinking? Those types of things. It's a common type of thing that happens, but those are what we are all trying to work through. All of us are trying to work through. The other part, back to the inner artist, the inner child, I wanted to bring up was that if you are working on the inner child, I wanted to say, does anyone remember the last time that you went for a walk with a young, like a toddler or a young child? Anyone? Well, I remember, and this is one of my favorite parts, is that, and some of it was not so positive, because sometimes it was very hard to get through a walk. But going on a walk with a toddler or inner child is that a toddler is stopping every few seconds. A toddler, you're not really going on a walk. You walk, you step, you look, you stop. A child will stop and they'll notice things like the spider web. They'll notice things like the dew on the grass. They'll notice things like the ladybug in the crawling around on a flower that you passed that looks like, oh, that's just a flower. What do you see? And then they stop, look, look, look. And then they see the ladybug and they see the different things that are there. And oh, look at this. They're constantly examining the world and seeing it and appreciating all the different things that we pass by day to day and never even notice anymore, because it's just not as, we kind of pass through because they're so busy. But a child, the inner child here in our ideas, is that child is able to notice the world around and the beauty and the connection of what that means. And that's why connecting with the inner child, the inner artist, that creative part of us, is connecting with our spiritual selves, the higher, our creator. And that is what's allowing us to be able to really foster that relationship. So the more that we can really foster that inner child relationship, that inner artist, the more that we're going to be able to not only express ourselves, but be more connected in that relationship. And then there's the idea of bringing that the author brought up, was that our capacity for delight is a gift. So the more that we have to be delighted by the world around us is a gift that we're given. And that's the gift of being able to pay attention, right? So paying attention to what's around us. Like the child on the walk, noticing the spider web, like the child who likes the little butterfly or looks at the rock and sees beauty everywhere and that type of thing. I mean, the child that's able to see the little things and notice them and then really cherish them. And so we need to make sure that we're also thinking about how we pay attention, how we move through our day, how we move through our week, and look at the little things in the world around us. By doing that, that helps us heal. That helps us heal our own inner self, our relationships, but also through connecting and noticing that we also are nourishing ourselves. I can't get that out. But that's helping us to nourish ourselves and to really repair all those things that maybe have prevented us from being successful.
Yeah, Teresa, if I may,
Yes.
thank you for bringing that reflection back. I can remember when I was walking with my my boy. He'll look up in the sky, and I'll be like, "What is he looking at?" And I kid you not, it'd be like the smallest airplane, 30,000 feet.
Yes.
And he's just mesmerized of the aircraft that was just flying above us. And he'll just look. I mean, he could look for just, it seemed like hours, but just for long periods of time. And he's just marveled by it. And he'll point his finger at it, and and he couldn't talk at the time, but it's just an amazement of what he was probably experiencing at the time. So yeah, it brings a great smile to me when you see your kids, in my case, my kids just walking and just stopping and just looking at things and seeing what's the grass around them, if you will.
Absolutely. And sometimes it takes the kids and the younger children to really remind all of us of just how important that is, to really notice those things, notice the world and the people around. I think that's why children really don't necessarily notice the differences. They sometimes do, but they don't really notice them as much, or it doesn't seem to impede them. They're more fascinated by them. They're more observing. They're more like, wow, that's cool. Or what about that? Or that looks interesting. Or that looks different. And they're observing and then really appreciating the beauty in things. And I think we forget to do that because we do get so busy, and we forget to let that part of us continue to exist in our lives. We kind of push it aside, and we think sometimes we're told by the parasite that it's really not important. You don't need that. It's kind of a waste of time. That kind of stuff. And it really then starts to become less important to you, or less up, where you don't spend as much time doing that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I got to take care of this. I got this appointment. I got to take care of the dinner. I got to do all the other stuff. I don't have time to look at a spider web, kind of thing, when you don't realize that it's really part of an opportunity for us to be able to really connect with that spiritual side of ourselves and just notice the world around us and the beauty that's there.
So a parasite could be not only internal, it could be external too, like just society, just normal chaos with just going to work, doing what normal day-to-day stuff. It could just be just the weight of just life in a sense.
Exactly. Or the expectations that those things put on us, and that we accept and say that we have to take that on. And it doesn't mean we have to. We just need to make sure we prioritize the things that we put in our lives so that we don't forget that this is just as important, if not more important, to savor and protect than some of the other things that we do and spend our time on. So
There's been many times where I kind of lose that philosophy, and I kind of get sucked into that I guess black hole, if you will. And
Yeah.
it could be very detrimental at times.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how that happens. And it really is a hard thing for us to be able to really remember it. So because we're getting pulled in, and because part of it is us also accepting that as if somehow that it's the truth, but it's a choice we have and a choice we make. And so we need to remember that. And like, why are we doing this? Why is this so much more important and we're not allowing the other parts? And so it really helps us to see that differently. So I think that's by doing these exercises, by taking the time to do this and making this a priority, it helps us to remember that, and helps us to really allow us to remember that this is a priority in our lives, and we need to make sure that it's something that we not only value but protect.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, to refocus and not focus on the negative and focus on the positive. Absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I am seeing that we're about 7:15, and I know that some are working on other things right now, but I wanted to make sure that those were the major parts that we were discussing here. The next part that I wanted to make sure that we also brought up is the manifesting side of your course. So again, this is like what you want to be. Now you have what you think what you see and what you project out in the world, what other people put on you, what you feel you need to look like, and what you look like to them. And then your inner child and the parasite. But the last one is the fun, like, this is what I really want to have in my life. This is what I want to be. And this is what I want to look like. So this is that manifesting part that really allows you to have fun with that. Yes, Ashley. Did you raise a hand?
You're muted, Ash.
Well, okay. I went from straight to parasite to manifestation, and so I finished that up a little bit. There's
good.
still a little bit I'm going to add to it, but I'm kind of happy with it.
Let's see.
I don't know if you can see it that way. I can't. Can you see it?
Oh, it looks great. I love it.
That looks great. Looks good. Really good.
Pink.
So what was it that you want to manifest? What are the major things
It's it's kind of like, it's messy, but it's calm in a way that I can kind of embrace the chaos a little bit better.
So it is. It's like we have to remember that none of us are perfect, and so sometimes that image of being perfect prevents us from doing different things. But we are like the imperfect perfection, right? And we want to make the progress is perfection, not perfection type of thing. We want to know that we are working towards that. We're working on those things, but we are this amazing imperfect being. But whatever we are doing, we are enough. That whatever we have is there, so it doesn't have to be a expectation that this has to be perfect. That's never going to be attained. So we're going to just continue to remember to appreciate those things about us that makes us special.
I think that's why I kind of went with I had this like kind of gold paint that I used for it, so that it's kind of like gilded imperfection in a way.
Yes.
It's being able to accept and be happy with it and understand there's perfection in the imperfection. I know it's a little bit of an intense statement for that, but I thought it made sense to me.
Well, that's what the most important thing is. I mean, that's what this is all about, is your connection, and you're working on your path. We're all helping each other to do that. So whatever works in the terms that you use, what works for you is important. So that's what you need to make sure you focus on. We're not placing any judgment on that. It reminds me of the Japanese that they use gold filament to, like, let's say they break a piece of pottery and they'll use gold filament to fill it, to repair it. And they actually value that more, the imperfection more than the original piece. There is, I forgot the name that they call it, but it's supposed to be able to, like, that is a more valued treasure because of that the gold for the added imperfection that makes it more beautiful. Anyone else want to share what they did so far?
I'll share.
Ashley? Is there another hand? Or
Hannah said.
And
Okay. I know what we're doing, but I did a full. This is me in Hawaii. You can't.
Ooh, I like it. Oh, that turned out really nice.
It's really good. I like that you also had to tell us it's Hawaii.
I'm totally.
that is good.
It's not like
That's really good.
I'm not trying to make you like bad. It's just that I find it funny that you also have Hawaii at the top.
Well, that's important. I mean, that's what she was imagining that was.
I mean, it's really well done.
Look at my face.
It's
That's
really well done.
significant. Yeah.
Mhm.
My face, because that's where it all goes downhill. But we're working on it.
I know the struggle.
Well, remember, that's why I wanted to kind of give you some tips and tools and something you can try, but the expectation of having it to be exactly a certain way, just let go. Allow yourself to just express yourself and feel what you want. That, it may be that the image is a blank face, and that the color is what you want to express. So how that particular color is what you feel, and that's what you can put in there. So think about some of those other things you can do there.
I'm just experimenting. I have to glue it still. I traced my face.
Oh,
That's good, Joe.
I think that works really well.
On this background. I made a few, but this one seemed to fit. I think I gotta glue it
I like
on.
purple.
And then I'm gonna mess around with it some more, but
Well, and that's what's good about the journaling, is that you can go back in after this and add another layer. You can add more paint. You can add then you can add the lines and the other pieces in their drawings, writing. Some people are really good at calligraphy and writing, and they are able to just really do that on their journal. So you can write like what the words are, like what is the image, what you're trying to convey. You can write that out. And you can write it through like the lines itself. You can write it inside. You can, whatever you feel comfortable doing. You can even start cutting out. I just grabbed a couple here, and you can even start cutting out things from magazines. And if you don't want to write, if you don't feel comfortable about your writing, because some people have really good writing skills and they have really good calligraphy, but sometimes you can just get like the words cut out from the magazines, and you can use that as what you're putting in there too. So you can write out, future self and manifest dreams and that type of stuff. And you can really create a more and more layers to this journal page to really express what you want to convey in it. And then when you come back at it, and if next week, the week after, you can really start to see how that looks to you, and maybe add something else, as you're learning more stuff about where you're at and what you want. So it's a really nice exercise for all of us to do. Again, I didn't realize the time is going by so quickly, and I apologize for that. But I need to make sure that I let you guys know what next week looks like. I would like for everyone here, as an assignment, to finish what you were working on. So whatever that is, I continue to work and continue to make that work for you. Allow yourself to express and feel those things, and really feel the emotions that come along with it, and maybe even journal afterwards, like what that made you feel like. What was the exercise like? How did it work for you? And what did it bring up in your thoughts? But the other part is that next week I want you to really go on a sensory walk, and just about 20 minutes, but it could be longer, whatever it works, but at least 20 minutes. And I want you to go and pick up items along the way, anything that you see on your walk that interests you. penny that was on the ground, leaves, flowers, um, whatever you find that you find along the way. Sometimes you find like I found like a little ball that got lost in the gutter, and that was really kind of fun one time. I also found some different flowers, variety of different things I just picked along the way. Sometimes I did leaves, but I want you to collect a variety of different things, and we're going to work on a collage based off of our found things. So when you go on the sensory walk, think about the things that you're at, where you're in, but be able to collect things along the way that interest you, the color, the texture, the smell, whatever draws your attention. Collect those things, rocks, whatever it is. We'll do a collage based off of the found things that we have, that you have from this walk. That's what we'll work on next week. And then I also want you to go on an artist date, but this doesn't have to be a long one. It just has to be a fun one. I want you to reconnect with something that you really love to do, but you used to always do, or really brought you joy. So that could be anything from, like, I love to swing. Swinging was a big thing. I love the feeling of swinging. Every time I get a chance to get on a little swing that's big enough for me, I love to swing. So swinging just gives that feeling of freedom. So I love swinging. So I'm going to try to find myself a little swing set this week, and I'm going to try to go swinging. But you can also ride your bike. You can jump rope. You can skip. Some people really love to bake. So like maybe baking brings up a good memory with your grandparents or something like that. Some people like to bake. Some people like to cook, whatever that is. So anything that you used to do, that you say that you really love to do, that just really brought a lot of joy, that's what you want to do. That's your assignment. You're going to go and do something fun, but you're scheduling it, you're making it a priority, and you're going to have some fun. Trampoline park, I don't know what it is, whatever you feel like it really just made you like have a good time, just really just brought joy to you, go do it. That's your assignment for the week.
All right.
Plan?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Everybody can commit to that?
Yes.
I've never been good at homework, but I'll try.
I hope this is a good assignment for everybody. This should be a fun one. This is like, that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get to the fun, bringing it back in, bringing fun back. All right. So on that note, does anyone have any other questions or anything else you'd like to go over, or anyone else to share anything else that you've been working on, or
Thank you for a good workshop.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and being able to participate in this workshop and this experience. And I just thank you very much for being part of this. You guys have a good week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to hit end record rather than hang up.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll keep spamming it. Please stop recording.
All right. Thank you.
Please.